Okay, so I'm making two videos today because I didn't want this one to be in an update video because I wanted to go with some extreme honesty in this one. And I have heard other folks talking about uh, mental health and language learning, but I don't think you can talk about this too much. Again, I'm trying to keep these videos rather short because we're all just so insanely busy right now adjusting to all of the things that have changed in our worlds in 2020. And you can already tell starting to choke up with emotions just thinking about this. But I left a really big gap when I came back on the channel from when I left China on January 1st, literally, of 2020 and arrived in Germany on January 1st, despite a really long flight, but a really enjoyable flight. My husband and I both got aisles, like the whole aisle, like 3-4 seats each to lie down in on the big flight. So it was pretty awesome. That was pretty great. But and the first month or two here in Berlin was pretty great. I think I did mention this in my return video. I started taking intensive language classes. I met a bunch of people both in that environment as well as in podcasting environments that I went to and that I created. That's how vibrant Berlin's one of those cities where a lot of people are connecting with different interests that they have and different events that go on, and it was pretty amazing actually. I went to a bunch of language meetups and lots of different things were happening and it was fantastic. And May started and I decided to take the month off of the intensive language course so I could start applying to jobs more wholeheartedly. And that's when lockdown happened. Now, the thing that I'm not mentioning, or that I haven't mentioned up until this point, is that there were some residual health issues that carried over from China to Germany that I thought were done. And they weren't. And I don't want to get into too many details, but switching countries was very exciting, but there's a lot of change. The paperwork in Germany to come in on a tourist visa is easy. To switch over to the job seeker visa that we switched to was not as easy. I have an entire episode that I don't have online right now about the process that we needed to go through to stand in line literally at 1 o'clock in the morning until 7 in the morning to get our job seeker visa, because Berlin at that point was so impacted. They've changed so much since COVID hit and it's really gotten a lot better from what I've heard. But it was incredibly stressful to get the visa, to stay longer and to apply for jobs when everything shut down, when everybody went, all the companies went on job freezes and things like that. So it was like the perfect storm of things to really mess with your mental health, to mess with my mental health. So it was the change of country, which again was exciting, but also brought in the instability of not knowing where we were going to be, apartment-wise, job-wise, it just how long we could stay. Yeah, there was a lot going on. And then the residual health issues. So it was like health stuff, job stuff, apartment stuff, visa stuff. And by stuff, I mean stress. And then lockdown. And hi, this is our first global pandemic in our generation. No matter what age you are right now, you generally, unless you're one of those 2 or 3 people that lived through the 1918 pandemic, you are new to global pandemics. So there were 5 really big stressors, especially the lockdown and the closing off of the community that I was starting to create in Berlin. That was big for me. That was really, really big. I like being around people, and all of my workspaces were in public. I was basically choosing coffee shops over co-working spaces because of I liked exploring the city and then sitting down for a while and working and then going to explore some more. So it just worked better to be in different coffee shops, and all that was gone. So suddenly I was in an apartment that we rented to just sleep in for the entire day for weeks on end and possibly months on end. We just didn't know. I mean, you've all been through this. I know people had it a lot worse, but that was a lot to deal with. All of those stressors hitting all at the same time. It was the perfect storm for a lot. And before I knew it, and way before I even realized what was happening, I started to have pretty strong anxiety, and I didn't even realize it for a couple of months. And the symptoms of the anxiety came out in ways that mimicked what could have been wrong from the medical condition. So I kept getting tested for things that I didn't have. And you can see where this is going. Fast forward, and after we moved to this current apartment in May, I started to have pretty serious panic attacks. I called an emergency helpline at night for the first time in my life. I went to a doctor begging for something to help me to sleep because my insomnia and my waking up with panic attacks every couple hours was something I was unprepared for. So the huge gap in the information from leaving China on the 1st to when I returned to this channel a few weeks ago is partially because life was also like very exciting for a while, and then it wasn't, and then it was incredibly stressful, and I didn't know how to fit actual things I enjoyed into that world. It's very hard to describe the intensity of panic attacks, and now that I'm saying part of this in past tense because very much so on the mend in a really big way, far from back to normal, whatever that even means anymore, but I couldn't concentrate, to say the least. I tried to even play with my old Hansa character tracing app, and you know when my hand does this, what's happening if you've seen the older videos. But even that wasn't it wasn't reassuring anymore because the glare from the screen and the music was too much for my brain. It was just too much. It was really hard to concentrate. So I found myself studying German between panic attacks, which sometimes works and sometimes worked and sometimes didn't. I eventually found a lot of tools, online and offline, to help literally bring the attacks from like a 9 to 10 on a scale of 10 down to a 2 or 3. And that's where I am now. And I'm only at the beginning of dealing with all of this. I'm about 3 weeks into really actively recognizing what was happening and dealing with it. And that gives me a lot of hope that a month from now, it's going to be a lot better. So yeah, so these are all of the reasons why I haven't been able to do a lot of language studies. I every day stare at, like, there's a table behind my computer that I'm recording on that has, I think, about 6 or 7 different graded readers in Chinese that I really want to get into. And there's, my notebooks of German that I would prefer to spend 2 or 3 hours, if not 4 hours a day on, with the TV shows that, sorry, I drank a bunch of mineral water before I went on camera, and that's just not a good idea. I don't know about you, but I burp a lot when I drink mineral water, which when I'm not being recorded is fine because I can kind of polite female burp inside my mouth, but that doesn't work on video. My point is this. Sometimes I find that learning languages really helps me with stress, and that was definitely true for the last year in China. Studying for the HSK3 really, really helped me. It really gave me something to do when I was very, very stressed out and trying to plan the future without really knowing the future. And little did I know how much I didn't know the future. But even with what I didn't know then, it was still really, really helpful. But then there becomes a certain point when there's so much going on that it's impossible to do much. And that's where I was for a while. I'm back on board with German. Chinese is going to take a while because I'm still literally spending, I kid you not, like with 20-minute meditation videos and audio things that I'm doing and different journaling exercises and all kinds of things to help with the basically retraining my brain to understand that there is no danger around me. It's just created pathways of stress that I've turned into danger. I'm trying not to judge myself because this is a very strange place to be. But with all of that going on, that takes away a lot of my language learning time for now. Eventually, this is going to be unneeded. I will still meditate probably the rest of my life now that I've gotten into the habit of it. And I've gotten to the point, this is actually really cool, where I feel these little tingly things in my head and my toes, like good tingly things. And I feel like my whole body's lighter. I've never gotten that way with meditation before. So I've had to do it so much over the past few months that has started to happen. And that I don't want to go away because that feels really good. Really, really good. But I will be pulling back from all of the meditation I'm doing now because a lot of times now I'll do it when a panic attack or anxiety, when a panic attack is coming on or when the anxiety is getting high, I'll just stop and realign things and ground myself and do these techniques that I've learned. So yeah, that takes up a lot of time. A lot of time I could be spending on Chinese. A lot of times I could be spending on German. A lot of time I could be spending on a lot of things. But a lot of times with life, you have to stop and just do that damn self-care. I need to stop and do the self-care that I clearly hadn't been doing for a long time. Yeah, so that's where a lot of the time that you don't see from the last time I recorded in China to the first time I recorded in Germany, a lot of that time that's missing is time spent trying to figure out what physical ailment I had, trying to come to grips with it not being a physical ailment and dealing with the anxiety that it actually was. Good news is that even though all of this started with a physical condition that is, if not gone, thanks to all the testing that I've done, not anything to worry about. So I am physically really, really good. And emotionally and mentally, I feel like I'm doing a lot better. And this is not a long-term thing. And you know, global pandemic. I mean, talk about a storm of stuff to come up at once, like moving countries, changing jobs. These are things that we intentionally, my husband and I intentionally did. But global pandemic and job freezes and the medical thing seemingly getting worse, but it didn't. Those are things I can't control. And part of this process is coming to terms with letting go of not knowing all of this when it was happening. And there's a lot of times when we're doing our language learning that we want to keep pushing through no matter what's happening with life. But sometimes you have to pause. Sometimes you have to go slower. And sometimes you have to stop for an indeterminate amount of time. And I think that's why some of the kind of faster language learning programs and things that ignore life and all of the complexities and things that can come up kind of rub me the wrong way sometimes, because you need space in your world for pausing and for adjusting your schedule, your language learning schedule, because as enriching as all of this is, as routine and mind scratchy and building up a new personality in a different language and all of those really cool, interesting, learning about the world parts of language learning, all of those exist, but you're useless in another language if you can't be in your own body and be in your own mind. And so we really need to take care of ourselves this year. If anybody is going through anything that I've described and you want any recommendations, I don't want to list a bunch of stuff down below because I don't know. This is a language channel. It's not an anxiety channel. But if you want any meditations or restorative yoga videos or the anxiety course that I'm taking, if you want any of that information, please just contact me. StephFuccio.com is my website, and there's all kinds of ways you can contact me there. I'll put it down below. I'd be more than happy to share those resources with you, but it's not really something to go in the show notes here or in the notes down below here. But it is something I want to put out there just in case. If you're still watching this video, this may be resonating with you in more ways than just listening to how sucky my year has been. So if your year has been sucky in this way and I can help in any way, please do reach out to me because I'd like to pass this information on. It took a lot of hours for me to find stuff that resonated with me. And if any of that resonates with you, I'd love to pass it on. And it might not, but you never know. You never know. Anyway, so this is my one video on mental health and language learning. I hope that fills in some of the gaps that you may have had if you were following me in China and then started following me again in Germany and wondered what the heck happened all those months. Now you know. Okay, so the other videos will be about different topics. I'll have the update videos weekly, and then I'll have random topics as they emerge, because that's what I do. All right, thank you very much. And yeah, comments welcome, but if you're mean, I will delete them. And it's what you do when you are the person in charge of the YouTube channel these days, apparently. Okay, thanks, and be good to each other and be good to yourself. Have goals, but make you the #1 goal. Oh, that's so cheesy, but I mean it. Okay, tschüss.